Hey guys, welcome to Cakewalk Cambridge. I'm Aisha, and today we're going to start with Chapter 2, Organization of the Organism. This chapter, again, like Chapter 1, has a lot of mugging up, but don't worry, you just keep going through this slideshow and you'll be good, I promise. Let's get into it. Okay, so first we have the basics that you need to know. You have a plant cell and an animal cell. A cell is basically the basic units of life, the building blocks, if you will. So this is the structure that you should have done in your secondary checkpoint or in grade 8. I don't think I need to explain the structure, but we will get into what each structure does, like each part of the structure, each component does. So this is a plant cell, this is an animal cell. You can feel free to pause, make note of these, draw it in your books, make notes, okay? Okay, so the nucleus. A nucleus is basically found in every eukaryote cell, like in every human cell and an animal cell. So the nucleus contains genetic information and has chromosomes. It is a round structure embedded in the cytoplasm, and it controls the type and quantities of enzymes produced, and it regulates chemical changes. So you saw the nucleus. It's like this round structure. It's got chromosomes inside it, and it's basically vital to control what the cell does because it has DNA. DNA gives instructions as to what the cell is supposed to do. So the nucleus in turn controls it. This is quite easy. The cell membrane, again present in every cell. It's a thin layer of cytoplasm that forms a boundary around the cell. It stops cell contents from escaping and it maintains the structure and reactions of the cytoplasm. So the stopped cell contents from escaping means that it is specific. So only specific substances are allowed to pass through it and leave it, which means it's got a greater role than than the cell wall in a plant cell, but we will get to that too. Then we have the cell wall, which is made of cellulose. It is non-living and non-selective. As I said, for the previous, the cell membrane is selective. That means only certain substances can pass in it and go out. But the cell wall, every molecule will pass in and every molecule will pass out. Also, the cell wall is an important part of maintaining your cell structure, which we will come to in chapter 3. But just keep this in mind as of now, so it's easy later. Chloroplasts. So chloroplasts trap light energy and they convert the light energy to chemical energy. As you know, chloroplasts are only found in plant cells, not in animal cells, because plants carry out photosynthesis, which is the process by which they manufacture carbohydrates using raw materials and energy from sunlight. Now, that is your definition of photosynthesis, and over there it tells you that it uses energy from sunlight. Now, how does it get this energy from sunlight? Chloroplasts absorb the light energy and they convert it to chemical energy. This is where photosynthesis happens, and very often you have MCQs where they'll show you the structure of a plant cell, and the question will be where is starch produced and where is it stored? Both of these are in the chloroplast. So you click chloroplast, that option with both of them. Don't get confused. It produces a green pigment called chlorophyll. You should know this by now. Chlorophyll is essential for photosynthesis. So basically, if just a thing to add on, it's not relevant to this chapter, but your syllabus as a whole. So chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis. So that means a white-leafed flower doesn't have chloroplast because there's no chlorophyll, which is a green pigment. So it cannot photosynthesize and so it can't grow. And so it is virtually impossible to carry out selective breeding with it. I'm sorry, this question comes later in a past paper, which I found a little tricky, so I thought this would help. I'll repeat it in the next few chapters, so don't worry, but just keep it in mind. Then you have the vacuole. A vacuole is basically a large vesicle that takes a large part of the interior of a cell. If you go back to the first slide in the cell structure, there's like an empty space. It looks empty, it's the vacuole, but it could contain cell sap as well, and it could store some specific materials, and it helps support the shape of a plant, which again you will learn later in chapter 3. This is fairly easy. Just keep up with it. While I'm talking, you pause the video, read through these, and take it up for yourself. Okay. Then we have the cytoplasm, which is a very important part of the cell. It's a watery jelly-like structure in the cell, and it contains drops of lipids, which are basically fats. You should get used to calling lipids fats. And it has granules of starch as well. Chemical reactions take place in the cytoplasm, and because so okay, so it can so the cytoplasm contains ribosomes and rough endoplasmic reticulum, which we will do later. And ribosomes are involved in protein synthesis, which is basically the forming of a protein. So that is and that the ribosome is present in the cytoplasm. So reactions like this occur in the cytoplasm. Also, there are vesicles in the cytoplasm that are used to transport substances from one part of the cell to the other. So there was a paper in which they show you the structure of a cell, and they say what is used, and they asked what is give the so they label different parts of the cell with different letters, and it was a table, and the question was what is used to transport substances from one part of the cell to the other? Or if you see transport, you know it's a vesicle. So you always go for vesicles. I made a mistake before, and I don't want you all to make the same one. Then we have the mitochondria, which are a very important part of the cell. They are slipper shaped or oval shaped. Very often in ATP papers, you are asked to describe them or redraw them. That's when you say they're slipper shaped or oval shaped. They respire aerobically. Very important. It's mentioned in your syllabus as well and in an endless number of past papers. So don't forget it. It respires aerobically to provide energy in the form of ATP for metabolism. You mentioned these, you get like 4 marks straight or like 3 marks because energy in the form of ATP very often is given 1 mark. But still, just remember these points because the more you write down, the more you show the examiner what you know. Okay, and because mitochondria respires aerobically to provide energy, it is high in sites of active transport and metabolism. Again, active transport you will be doing in chapter 3. It's a very easy concept. And metabolism, you should already have an idea of what it is. But basically, mitochondria is present in areas that require high energy. That's what you need to know right now. Then we have the endoplasmic reticulum and ribosomes, which may be a new concept to you now if you're just entered grade 9. So the endoplasmic reticulum primarily functions to produce, transport, and store proteins. And then you have ribosomes, which are present in the cytoplasm. And some ribosomes are present on the endoplasmic reticulum. And the surface of the ribosomes is what makes part of the endoplasmic reticulum rough. So whenever the paper refers to rough endoplasmic reticulum, it means ribosomes are present on its surface. And if it's just merely smooth endoplasmic reticulum, that means there are no ribosomes present. But basically, ribosomes are essential for protein synthesis, which is basically the production of proteins by assembling amino acids. We will do that later as well. I don't want to confuse you all now. You all are just entering your IGCSE syllabus, so that's all you need to know. Okay, this is an actually really good diagram that I found. So here you have the cell. This is the nucleus, which you can see is a um, round structure which is embedded in the cytoplasm. Here you have the endoplasmic reticulum. These little black dots present on them are the ribosomes, which make it rough ER. This is the ribosomes. This is the cytoplasm, which is where all chemical reactions occur. Then here you have chloroplast. This is basically a plant cell because it has a lot more detail and it has more of the structure. So I chose a plant cell. These are chloroplasts. This is where photosynthesis occurs and starch is stored as well. This is mitochondria. As you see, it is slipper shaped or oval shaped. They respire aerobically to provide energy in the form of ATP for metabolism and active transport. Here you have the large central vacuole, which looks like an empty space, but it could contain cell sap. You go back, you see all the functions of each of them. Here you have the cell wall, which is made of cellulose. So, okay, if they ask you what is the use of carbohydrates in a plant, you can like talk about energy, and then you can also talk about the manufacture of sugar, like cellulose for the cell wall. fructose for sugar, for basically nectar, sucrose, which is used as sugars in plants. So this is important. So cell wall is made of cellulose. Then you have the Golgi apparatus, and you don't really need to know this at all. This is basically your cell structure. Let's go to the next. Okay, this is a very important question asked over dozens of past papers. And even though the concept is really easy, it's very easy to muck up because there's so much to learn and you think you know it all, but you don't. It happens to the best of us. Okay, so there are many questions. So one question is what structures are found in all other cells except prokaryotes? To this, your answer is mitochondria and rough endoplasmic reticulum. You learn this by default and write it down. You'll never go wrong. And usually they ask you for two structures. So I've given you 2 to 3 here. You memorize them and you're good to go. What is found in human cells but not prokaryotes? This was all other cells. I just thought I'd be a little more specific here. Again, nucleus, mitochondria, and rough ER. What is found in human cells and prokaryote? Genetic material, that is DNA or RNA. DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. RNA is ribonucleic acid. I'm sorry. Cell membrane and ribosomes. And what is found in viruses and prokaryotes? You have genetic material and cell wall. Also, in the previous lesson, I taught you the structures of a prokaryote, so you should know it does not have a nucleus. Keep that in mind. And viruses are non-living, but they do have genetic material in the form of a coil of RNA or DNA. Just memorize that. Okay, then you have the levels of organization. You will need to memorize every structure and the definition. So there's no real definition for a cell, but I wrote it down myself. So a cell is the basic unit of life. It is specialized to carry out special tasks. Then you have a tissue. So this is basically the order, the levels of organization. So one is cell. Then you have a tissue, which is basically a group of cells with similar structures working together to perform a shared function. Okay, so if you have one epidermis cell, if you put them all together, you get an epidermis tissue. So very often they ask you, they show you in an MCQ, they show you the microscopic image of an epidermis tissue, and they say, what is this? A cell, tissue, organ system. And very often children get confused because they refer to it as a cell because they see the individual cells, but they don't realize that the cells are working together. They're together. They're performing a shared function. So that's why it's a tissue. Okay. Then you have an organ, which is a structure made up of a group of tissues that work together to perform specific functions. Then you have an organ system, which is a group of organisms with related functions working together to perform body functions. You don't really need to know the definition of an organism, but it's put here. It's formed by organs and systems working together to enable an independent animal or plant function and carry out daily activities and tasks. You don't really need to know it, but this is just for reference. You need to memorize these though. Please do. Okay, then we have specialized cells. These 3 points were written in my textbook and I always found them helpful just to know and keep in mind. So specialized cells have a particular job. They develop a distinct shape and they have special kinds of chemical reactions that occur in their cytoplasm. Again, you just need to learn this. I can't really explain this slide, but it's self-explanatory. But okay. Ciliated cells. Now we're going on to the different types of specialized cells that you need to know for your IGCSEs. So ciliated cells, they're present in the trachea, which is basically like the windpipe here in the throat. They're present in the trachea. They have a large surface area. You can see these projections. That's called cilia. They beat mucus towards the throat. So they move to and fro. And mucus, which is like a sticky body of liquid, like semi-liquid, it traps dust particles and dirt and pathogens. So this cilia moves and beats the nucleus towards the throat. So you swallow it instead of it going to your lungs. And they trap dirt and dust particles inhaled. That also, yeah, that's pretty much what you need to know. Then you have the root hair cells. This is your structure of the root hair cells. It has a large surface area, as you can see yourself. It absorbs ions via active transport and water via osmosis. So you will know what the meaning of these terms are next chapter. But you need to know the structure of a root hair cell. And very often they ask you name a structure present in the root that is not present in the root hair cell, that is present in plants. This always mind boggled me, but the answer is a chloroplast. Don't forget, because roots don't photosynthesize. Then you have the sperm cell, which is found in males, human males. So it's used for reproduction. It has mitochondria, usually in the body. It's not drawn here, but it's usually over here. Mitochondria, which respires aerobically to provide energy for movement. It moves on its own with the help of its tail or flagella that beats to and fro and for locomotion. It's streamlined in shape, as you can see, to make it more dynamic to move. It's got a head which has an acrosome, which is called an acrosome, sorry, and it contains enzymes that are secreted that break down the jelly coat of an egg cell before fertilization takes place to penetrate the egg cell. You will learn about this in reproduction, but you just need to know the basic function and how it is specialized. Then you have a nerve cell. Nerve cells are used for the transmission of electric impulses. They're long for transmission over long distances, and mitochondria again provides energy for the process. This is your nerve cell. Um, this is basically, it looks complicated, but it has the similar structures as a normal cell that I've taught you. You will also be doing this in chapter 14, so don't worry about it. Just remember transmission of electrical impulses. Then you have an egg cell, which is found in female humans. It contains food reserves, it's large and round, and it is used for reproduction. This is again a photo. Also, I've taken some images from Save My Exam, so I completely give them credit and the recognition that they deserve. My only aim is to help you all, not take anyone else's material and use it. Okay. Then you have the red blood cell, which is biconcave in shape. Um, you can see it's rounder and kind of bulgy outside, but thinner in the middle. It doesn't have a nucleus and no chromosome. So it doesn't have a nucleus because it needs more space to carry oxygen and oxyhemoglobin to transport oxygen. As you can see, that's its function. So very often in an MCQ, they'll ask you how many chromosomes does a red blood cell have? You write 0 because it has no nucleus, and a nucleus contains chromosomes. Okay, that was easy, right? Then you have the xylem vessel, which is basically long and it conducts water and mineral ions. It supports the plant due to its turgor pressure. All of these terms, turgor pressure, conducting water, you will learn in the next chapter and chapter 6 and 7, 6 and 8, which is mainly about plants. Okay, but this is a xylem vessel. It has thick walls stiffened with lignin. It has no cell walls, no end walls between cells, and no contents. All the contents in the xylem die to allow the free passage of water. And this is a phloem, which is two ways only, and it has end walls with perforations, and it transports ions and water. No, ions and water. Yeah. And food, basically. The phloem is basically used in translocation, where it transports sucrose and amino acids to other parts of the plant from the leaf, from the source. Okay, then you have the palisade cells. It's where photosynthesis occurs, and they have many chloroplasts. That's their adaptation. So here you have the cell wall, the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, the nucleus, vacuole, chloroplast. Again, it's like your normal plant cell structure. Just learn this. You need to learn this. Very often, the parts are labeled, and you're supposed to the parts are labeled with letters, and you're supposed to name the letters. So don't mess up there. Like 4 marks. Why would you want to lose that? So these are just some extras. So these are some adaptations that I found in earlier paper mark schemes that I found useful for myself. So the mesophyll layer, which you will learn again in chapter 6, it has many air spaces for diffusion of gases, and it has chloroplast for photosynthesis. The epidermis, it's transparent and thin for the absorption of light energy, and it has stomata for gas exchange. Guard cells have chloroplasts. Don't forget that. Palisade cells have the most chloroplasts, mesophyll cells have few, and guard cells have the least. I will be putting the same slide in chapter 6, so that because it's very relevant to chapter 6, it's relevant more to chapter 6 than this chapter, but I thought it would be useful for those in grade 10 who are going to use this anyways. So the last part that I've written, it comes in MCQs where where they show you 3 structures, the palisade cells, mesophyll cells, and guard cells, and they ask you to estimate how many chloroplasts will be present in each. So just remember, it's Palisade, mesophyll, guard cells. And now your last concept in this chapter, and then we're done. That's magnification. The formula for magnification is the observed size of the image, or the size that you measure with your ruler divided by your actual size of the image, which is what they give you. Like if you supposing are given the image of a nucleus and you measure with your ruler and it's 80 millimeters and they tell you that the actual size is 8 millimeters. Can't be, but I'm just giving you an example. Your magnification is 80 on 8, which is 10. And your magnification does not have a unit because it is the ratio of two common quantities, two similar quantities, like millimeters over millimeters. These are just some basic conversions you need to know. You memorize them. I don't see any point in me repeating them. And also magnification. The formula, very often you are asked to just state the formula in a theory paper, you get a mark. So don't lose it. And in ATP papers, it is very important. You get a 3-mark question, 3 to 4 mark question about magnification all the time. Your conversions, especially to micrometer, millimeter, centimeters, are most crucial for ATPs because you are often asked to convert and play around with the measurements there. Okay, and at this last point, the length of an organism can be found by placing a ruler in the eye or in the eyepiece of a microscope. So basically, in one of my mock papers, the question was how can you find the length of this microorganism? And no one knew what to write, but this was the answer. So I thought it could be useful because I'm not really seeing this in my textbook or anywhere else online. So the length of an organism can be found by placing a ruler in the eyepiece of a microscope. Okay, so that was that for today. I hope the session was helpful. Please like, subscribe, and share this video, turn on post notifications, and let's get through this journey to study IGCSE Biology together. I'm Aisha, and you watching Cakewalk Cambridge. Thank you.